All right, good morning and welcome to our channel. Today, we're going to be discussing the crackdown on deceased people that preside using the Section 8 voucher despite being in a coffin and passed on. So, I had to do the research to kind of determine what the administration and HUD were talking about when it came to 25,000 people using a voucher, but they've long passed. And so, these are some of the results that I came up with, and I even reached out to a few people that I know at HUD, the ones that still remain working there, and got a clearer answer. So I want to go over that today, so we can figure out how we have spent millions, if not billions, on dead people that are in the graveyard, and yet they're not alive. And so, how are they still using a voucher or participating in federal housing? So I'm going to bring in some notes, and I'm going to include those down there. That way, you can verify sources and let's see here. So there has been HUD announced 2026 that HUD and DHS is reviewing a federally assisted housing records, and that they had obviously identified over 25,000 deceased tenants. Among the records reviewed, HUD also reported nearly 200,000 tenants requiring eligibility verification. So if we don't have people in coffins, we also have people who simply don't belong in the US that somehow, one way or another, are participating in the federal program. It doesn't mean necessarily they have a voucher, but they're somehow in the household. And because by proxy they're in the household, that allows for more money for rent and therefore taxing the taxpayers. So the tenants requiring eligibility verification and nearly another 6,000 as described as ineligible non-American tenants. And so HUD says the PHA and participating owners would be required to take corrective action, that HUD would be recapturing funds for payments made on behalf of ineligible or deceased tenants. So let me tell you, there are going to be some bankrupt people shortly because they're making deductions. This is not a payment plan. You could either produce the 25,000 people, in addition 200,000, and another 6,000 non-Americans will need to grant a refund or otherwise be subject, I guess, to federal court. The deceased tenant issue isn't entirely new. HUD OIG previously found weaknesses in controls over voucher payments for deceased tenants. And an earlier OIG audit and estimate approximately 7 million in questionable housing payments involving deceased tenants. So that number isn't quite as high as you might imagine, but that's only because they've only caught a marginal fraction of the 25,000 or more, and we still don't know anything about the 200,000. So that's a lot of people. That's a lot of people participating in a program using taxpayer dollars that should not be doing so. The housing authorities must check for deceased tenants every month now. Under the PHA 2026-11, HUD requires PHAs to generate an EIB, deceased tenants report, at least monthly now. So they're not playing around with this. If the housing authority fails to produce that report under EIB, then they will be also subject to federal rules and courtroom probably action. So for Section 8, HCB, PBB, mod rehab programs, PHAs must generate the report before it sends its monthly housing assistance and HAP contract to landlords. Even HUD even encourages PHAs to check it more frequently than to make sure that the matches that they're actually proceeding with will be scheduled. So that's a critical change to emphasize that HUD does not simply want the PHA to discover improper payments a month later. It wants the deceased tenant check incorporated into the payment process. In other words, not one copper penny will be granted on a voucher or federal housing if it doesn't clear HAP check or EIB. So the moment of detection is one thing, but now they're not going to grant any payment towards any voucher if anybody cannot be proven to be legal in the U.S. and otherwise deceased. That is the end of the era for that. There'll be no more subjective fraud there, and anybody that's obviously gotten involved in a federal program or Section 8 and have continued along these lines, it is retroactive. They will pursue a refund if that means selling your home, your car, and every asset you have. And then, of course, you will see three hots and a cot in a federal prison because you also are involved in fraud. And so that becomes not only a civil matter but also a prison matter. So they're handing out free shower slippers to those of you that want to participate illegally in programs. So moving on from there, where does HUD get this death information? Well, the EIB, deceased tenant reports, uses information with the Social Security Administration Death Master File. In other words, almost from the moment that a person dies. As an example, my mother passed roughly about a year and a half ago. It only took to the point of the coroner to make a ruling within a day and a half for that to reach Social Security. Okay, they're connected now. So you no longer will Momo die and you'll sit on her food stamp card and her EH and her voucher and all that. They'll know probably within 24 to 48 hours. Okay. Uh, Barring that they cannot figure out who the dead person is or nobody's claimed the body. So I think that those lapses are now being fixed. So moving on to our additional notes, housing authorities can't simply assume someone is dead, obviously. The computer match isn't supposed to mean automatic termination without verification. I can bet that it does. Okay. I know what they're saying here. But when the EHB, when the EIB report identifies someone as deceased, I'm going to tell you right now that's going to instigate an investigation. And though you're not terminated, they're not going to pay out a copper penny until verification. So it's the same thing, really, in essence. Or the PHA learns that the death from another source. HUD says the PHA must request confirmation within 24 hours of being notified and documented in its efforts. As I mentioned, there's no longer going to be a grace period with this. So, looking on the next part, what if HUD incorrectly says you're dead? Well, good luck. The wheels of the federal government are oiled very slowly and tediously. So you're probably going to be in for the battle of your life to prove otherwise. Okay. I'm just going to be honest. Everything's convoluted, both going in and coming out. So if somehow you land on the dead list, then you're probably shit out of luck, probably for about a half a year, because I can tell you, trying to fix things through HUD or even a PHA oftentimes leads to 3 to 6 month waits while people figure out what they're going to do. So, what happens when a single Section 8 voucher holder dies? Well, that's where the rules become particularly important for landlords. For HCB, PBB, which is public based vouchers, and mod rehab housing, consisting of one person, the PHA must terminate the HAP to the owner no later than the final day of the month in which the participant died. So if grandma died on the second, you got till the stroke of midnight, the last day of the month, and that's the end of it. Okay. And 1 minute more on the first day means it's terminated. They need you out the building. And so they're not playing with this. I would hope that they would grant some reprieve there, considering that people simply cannot move that quick. But if that was the ideology here, then people wouldn't be serving 3 day notices to vacate. So I would imagine there might not be that much reprieve. So you have to plan ahead if you know somebody's going to pass away. The landlord is not entitled to Section 8 HAP for subsequent months. So there's not going to be any RICO for this. So if you're a landlord and the voucher recipient passes away, there's not going to be any passing of the voucher on like it's going to be a family outside. It'd be better just to put the tenant out, because they've explained very clearly they're not going to retroactively cover any rent if that voucher is terminated under cause of death. So payments issued for the months or the following months of death became HAP. Well, I guess what they consider HAP overpayments are subject to recovery. In other words, they're going to want a refund one way or another. Okay. Duplicity is what's playing out there. Specifically, vacant payment exceptions in PBB and mod rehab. So, as an example, suppose a person with an HCB household receives a $1,200 monthly HAP. Okay. The tenant dies on May 10th. The landlord can receive a May HAP. But if the housing authority accidentally says June, July, and August, they're going to want a refund. If you don't grant the refund, then they'll go after your assets, obviously. So the subsequent $3,600 can become an overpayment subject to recovery. And let me tell you, when it comes to federal recovery, it's a lot more brutal than civil recovery. Okay. Number six, can landlords repay the money? Obviously, they can. And so housing authorities themselves can be financially responsible. So bringing that up is also important. So the housing authority itself is civilly liable and also culpable. So that's all the incentive they're really going to need. This is another major part of the story, really. HUD says the PHAs may face monetary sanctions if they fail to recover or attempt to recover improper subsidy payments, correct the deficiencies identified through the deceased tenant report, or provide requested documentation to HUD. So if there's non-compliance, then they will simply shut off all money to your PHA and they'll put you and your assets in receivership. They're not going to fuck around with this, okay? They do not care. You're not an authority to them. You're just simply another person administrating federal funds, and therefore you'll be granted no reprieve under this. So that's good news. I'm glad that HUD's stepping up to the table to enforce certain policies here. Nobody should be continuing to utilize vouchers after death. Okay, neither should people arriving in the U.S., whether contentiously or not. No American citizen should be chipping in towards that without, obviously wanting to do that, and so they're shutting that off as well. So the rules are getting tight here, guys. The U.S. government's very serious about this, and they're making that clear, and not just penalties, but they have no objection to dissolving your assets, whether you're a person or you're a housing authority. You either comply, they'll get compliance one way or another, and you can only hope that this won't result in your immediate conviction in a federal courtroom. Okay, so they're making this rather dire in that circumstance that they won't absolute cooperation and failure to do so will result in obviously legal action at the federal level. All right, moving on to comments here, guys. Good morning to everybody. Sherry, Richie, thank you for the heart. Scott Johnson, section has not paid my rent in 2 months. Help. I would suggest reaching out to my office. We offer appointments. We have linkage in both the description and comment section. If you're struggling, I can't solve your problems in a live media platform. Okay. Moving on from there, all things weird. What's up with chat? I don't know what's up with it. It seems to be working properly. Imminent possibility. Good morning, Jay, cats, and chat. Good morning to everybody. I did have one cat here, but she's moved on, a little mama. And for those that don't know, I posted a picture this morning of her rooster. We have a wild batch of about 40 chickens and hens that have got loose in the neighborhood, and they're populating like no tomorrow. And every morning around 5, well, about sunbreak, you hear the old cock-a-doodle doo. And because I made one fatal mistake, I thought, let me go down to the feed store and just get some corn, right, for the chickens. Well, what I did was started Section 8 for the chickens. Okay. So there's an expectation from the rooster and all the hens when they cock a doodle doo that I come out and bring food. And so I've started my own government funded food stamp program. And then I'm providing Section 8, which is my back porch where they lay all their eggs. I don't mind. We all bring a service to the table at least. And my lazy cats will not do anything about the chickens other than lay around and watch them. So I'm not sure that we're doing that well with that. Anyways, I thought I'd bring that in there for you guys. Wow, the ads are SMH. I don't know what ads you're speaking of. It's a live video. Live videos don't have ads until the live video is over. So quit making shit up. Elisa King from Colorado. Hello and good morning. Thomas, I got evicted participating with California Housing is key COVID-19 rental assistance. Well, it's 2026. Okay. I don't know why we're talking about something that's half a decade old. But if you're having problems from assistance you received from 7 years ago, then, I don't know what to tell you. Most practicalities under Code of Federal Regulation, Title 24, including administrative plans for PHA, only offer remedies up to about a year. So whatever you were going through out in 2019 is no longer relevant and can likely be fought outside of civil court. From there, Indian exposed investigations, laughing out loud. Sharon Rogers, why is this not on the news? I don't know. Have you read the news lately? It's also published in the White House and Congress. So I think that maybe if you move from dial up all the way up to broadband, you might be able to find these stories. They're fairly easy to find. Moving on from there, imminent possibility, Section 8 for the chickens, of course. By the way, guys, I'm just joking with some of you. Don't leave the video pissed off and break the china hutch and smash all your bone china. I'm just responding in part. Okay. Indian exposed investigations. Well, your message was retracted. Try to speak a little bit more Christian-like, right? No, YouTube changed it about 2 or 3 months ago. Live videos have ads during the lives. I'll check that out and see. If they do have live videos during the live video, then this is really de-evolving into just a money machine, right? Because I don't really get paid for ads within a live video. So if y'all are suggesting that somehow there are live videos within this live video at this moment, that's terrible. I certainly didn't sign up for that. So So somebody, I guess, has got to pay rent over there at YouTube, so they put ads on everything, right? Well, guys, I've enjoyed having you this morning. If anybody has any questions, comments, or concerns that are, friendly, I'm welcome to entertain those right now. For those that don't know, I worked at the federal level for nearly 26 years, working with clients, helping them navigate the system. So, as you can see the sign in the background there. Moving on there, Alicia King. Yeah, yeah. I noticed that it divides up the screen and only hear ad, but the live is still going. Well, Jesus. YouTube is just finding more and more ways to monetize everything these days. So they're sticking in tons of ads and live videos. That is absolutely absurd. So this is the first time I've heard of it. So it's got to be a new development because nobody's else brought this up. I thought for a moment there that, yeah, we're making this shit up, but I guess you're not. I'll try to look into that and see if it can be turned off because I can see how that might be a nuisance to watch a live video and then actually, get hit with ads. So, moving on from there, yep, YouTube is putting ads during all videos now, whether they're live or pre-recorded. That sucks. Gracious Lord, thank you, Jay, for the information. Greatly appreciated. Lifespan entrepreneur. Are you a landlord, sir? Just ask, am I a landlord? I've been a landlord multiple times in my life, but I mostly work with large landlords or multinational groups and also work with tenants. So, as a present, I don't have any for rent properties, and it's not really something that I'm going to go into full disclosure on a public platform because I don't believe my assets should be part of this video. But I appreciate you asking that. Friendly. All right, guys. Well, I think we're going to wrap this up. But before we go, want y'all to meet somebody. This is Little Mama. Y'all may remember her in some of my videos about a decade ago. There she is. She's an old gal. Yep. Well, she ain't having none of that. As you can see, that tail's ticking. So she's not going to be entertaining today. But Little Mama's been around a very long time on her channel, only second to Grandma Grace, which passed last year. She was 26. So, guys, I've enjoyed talking with you anyways, and we will see you again for our next EDU, which will likely be this afternoon or tomorrow. We do live videos on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. In between that, we do live videos with cattails, right? Little mama, she wants what she wants, and she doesn't care whether you guys are watching or not. All right, have a great week, guys. Bye for now.